Good afternoon and welcome to James Franklin's weekly press conference. Please turn your phones to vibrate or off, and we'll have an opening statement from Coach.
All right, well, first of all, appreciate everybody coming, like every week. Kind of review the game. Watch the complete game 3 times, offense, defense, and special teams, as well as, again, watched it with both the defense first thing in the morning on Sunday and then the offense after that, and then special teams we watch as a complete staff together. Obviously is frustrated and is disappointed as everybody else, and probably in our locker room and the Lash football building, probably more so than anyone. You spend a lot of time, you work really hard, you're capable of playing better. And we didn't do that. So, spent a lot of time discussing those things, talking about those things, and then getting to work. Because once you kind of have the conversations and address them, then it's time to move on and start solving your problems and getting to work. If you look at offensively, obviously the sacks were the big storyline on the offensive side of the ball. Everyone had a role in them. The coaches, the offensive line, the running backs, the quarterbacks, the receivers. We had communication issues in all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams. And need to do a better job there. We're going to be looking at some different possibilities this week, moving some guys around to find out what's going to be our best 5 for Saturday. We'll look at that. We have to look at that. For me to come in here and say, we're not going to look at the possibilities, I don't think is the right thing to do for our program. So we'll look at those possibilities this week. What are the best 5 to get on the field to give us the best chance to protect our quarterback and be able to sustain a running game. We got to make plays in the passing game. We got to eliminate the drop balls. We got to eliminate the penalties. And we got to move the pocket and move the launch point for the quarterback. Those are things that I think we could do to help. Defensively, we had communication issues, especially after losing Naeem Wortman. I looked out on the field at one point, and we had Reeder as a redshirt freshman on the field. We had Cooper as a true freshman on the field, and we had Manny Bowen as a true freshman on the field. Manny, Bowen, and Cooper didn't even take any varsity reps last week. They were on scout team. We weren't expecting to play them, so they went right from the scout team to us burning their red shirts and getting them on the field. So we had communication issues that we need to get cleaned out. And we got to get off the field on defense, with 3 and outs and turnovers. I thought a critical drive in the game was we were up 10-0. We punted them down to the 7-yard line. At that point, we had the lead and had field position. And they went on a 93-play drive, and the momentum started to kind of swing at that point. Combination, again, of offense, defense, and special teams, all those phases. On a positive note, I thought Carl Nassib played really well defensively for us. He's a guy that's been as locked in and as focused and as committed as anybody in our program. And I think our commitment level is high across the board, but he's been a guy that you guys have heard me talk about a lot for the last year and a half. Really proud of him and how he's played, and I expect him to continue to play well. Special teams, I thought Joe Julius played well for his first start. Need more consistency in his kickoff location, but I thought overall he kicked the ball deep. He went out and kicked the field goal effortlessly like he's been doing it his whole career. Our punter, we got to be more consistent at that position. We had some good distance, but our hang time and our location wasn't right, and it put our coverage teams in some tough spots. I think that also had an issue in field position starting to swing in the game. We talked all offseason, and I probably could have done a better job of this, talking about practice depth compared to game depth. We're so excited to be able to get back to practicing in more of a normal, standard way, but we still don't have tremendous game depth. We, again, go from, you lose 1 or 2 guys, and now you're putting a true freshman on the field that you were planning on redshirting. So our practice depth is much better. We need to continue to develop our game depth. Again, I get it. It was tough to walk into that press conference after the game. It was tough to walk into this press conference today. The last couple days have not been great. the only positive thing that's happened the last 2 days is seeing my wife and daughter after the game and getting a chance to hug and kiss on them. I did not bring my daughters into the press conference because of all those discussions we had in the off season, but that was the one real positive. What I will say is this. There's a lot of positive things going on in the program right now. If you look at all the academic success that we've had, you look at the impact that we're having on the community, I couldn't be more proud of our team, and I couldn't be more proud of our program and our organization as a whole. We got to get the football part right now. I get that, but all those things are important. It's been my experience and my history that if you're disciplined in the classroom and you're disciplined off the field, then that equates to on the field success as well. And we got a lot of areas that we got to get better at, but myself, the staff, the players, we're as motivated as we've ever been. I think coming in and practicing on Sundays and being able to move on from it, watch the film and practice and get those corrections made helps, and then give the guys off on Monday while the coaches game plan has also been a positive for us. So I know there'll be more questions about the Temple game, but I wanted to address it with you guys and now move on a little bit to Buffalo. I think they're coming in here 1-0. They beat Albany last week 51-14. I think Coach Leopold does a great job. He's got an amazing background. You look at his record. You look at the things he's been able to do in his career. Excited about the opportunity we have. They have 7 offensive starters returning, 3 defensive starters returning, 1 on special teams. Kind of an interesting game. For our coaches, there's some carryover. Brent Pry played at Buffalo. Jim Haslett coached at Buffalo. Keel Lynch grew up not far at all from there at St. Francis. There's some interesting things about the game. We are looking forward to being back at home in front of our friends and family and our supporters. I think it's going to be really, really important for our team to be in this environment. And I ask for people to be positive. I ask for people to be patient, and good things are coming. So open it up to questions.
We'll start with Rich Scarcella from the Reading Eagle.
Thanks, Chris. James, you answered my first question about what you're planning to do about the offensive line. What do you plan to do at middle linebacker now that Naeem is out for the season? And will Brandon Bell and Grant Haley be ready to play Saturday?
Brandon Bell and Grant are questionable for Saturday. I can't answer that at this point. I think Wooten is an option for us at middle linebacker. I think Jason Cabinda is an option for us at middle linebacker. And I think Jake Cooper is an option for us at middle linebacker. So we're going to spend this week trying to figure that out. That's based on what we get from the injury reports, and that's also based on what guys do at practice and how they take over that leadership role. So those things will be really important for us. But yeah, we're going to have to look at some moving parts and getting guys ready to take over that responsibility, not just from a physical standpoint, but also from a leadership and mental standpoint.
Bob Flounders, Harrisburg Patriot News.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. James, you talked about the offensive line. As you look at them this week, James, who are the guys you think that maybe are close to being ready to play, maybe at left tackle or at the guard spot, other than the guys that you started, against Temple?
Yeah, I don't know if you're necessarily going to see, a bunch of new starters. I think you're going to, possibly see some guys move around and things like that. Wendy, he's a guy that could figure in for us as well. Chance Sorrell's a guy that could possibly figure in for us as well. But I think more than anything, I think you're just going to see some moving parts. But again, we had a walkthrough on Sunday. We got to go out and practice, Tuesday through Friday to kind of determine some of those things. Obviously, we spent a lot of time in the off season trying to figure out who our best 5 were going to be. We had some question marks. Again, it felt like we would play better than we did on Saturday. But we're going to have to figure that out, throughout this week.
Derek LeVar, Wilkes-Barre Times leader.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good, Derek. How are you?
Very good, very good. Earlier, you mentioned communication at the top press conference here. I know early on last season,
you said you thought maybe that was one of the issues for your offensive line. You guys getting antsy about making calls as things were snowballing. Did you see that come up at all on Saturday, do you think? Or did you see more mental mistakes or physical?
Well, I think it was probably a little bit of both. We had some communication issues from the sideline with signaling, plays coming in. That happened a few times. We had some situations where I think, again, in practice, guys have been taking control and being able to help some inexperienced players by telling them what to do. And I think we got into the game and things started flying around and that communication stopped. So I think that's one of the things that we got to continue to work on and continue to stress, because you guys have heard me say this before. A lot of times on offense and defense, you can be wrong as long as everybody's wrong together and we're all on the same page, and that didn't happen at times on Saturday.
Mark Wogenrich, Allentown Morning Call.
Hi, James.
Hi, Mark.
Excuse me. Where do you think the offensive coaching staff can be better on a game day, particularly this week against Buffalo?
Yeah, again, we're evaluating everything. Had some hard discussions this weekend with all of us, the entire staff. I think there's some things that we can do a better job in terms of managing the game, continuing to run the ball. Obviously the more success that you have running the ball, it makes it easier to continue doing that, but I think we can run the ball more. I think we can move the pocket more. There are things that I think that would be helpful for us, for a lot of different reasons. And I think we got to be able to take more shots. I think, when they're going to load the box up and play cover 1 and cover 0 and play press man and outnumber you in the box, you have to be willing to take shots down the field. Issue with taking shots, obviously you hold on to the ball a little bit longer, and if you don't complete them, now you're in 2nd and 10, 2nd and long, which creates 3rd and long situations, which was one of our big challenges on Saturday. We were in way too many 3rd and longs. So, the issue is, though, you have to threaten them deep to loosen them up. So you got to be willing to take those shots. So there are some areas that I think that we can be better, and we've discussed those things, as well. Another example where I got to do a better job is, after they did go on that long drive that we talked about earlier, we got to come out and maybe go huddle and not go no huddle and run the ball to give our defense a little bit more time, on the sideline.
Frank Bodeni, York Daily Record.
Hey, good afternoon, James.
Good afternoon, Frank.
I wanted to see, could you evaluate your tight end? How do you think they blocked on Saturday? And maybe, some people were surprised not one catch from your tight ends. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I don't think we blocked well. I don't think we blocked well. I think that's an area that we can definitely improve on. I think getting Kyle back into the mix a little bit more will help us this week. I think Mike Jasicki, playing a more prominent role, I think he'll be better this week. And I think Wilkerson. I think all those guys can do a better job. Again, the speed of the game sometimes is difficult to replicate in practice. And I think that caught up with the tight ends a few times on Saturday. In the passing game, there's no doubt that we want to get them involved. They were targeted a few times. We got some things that we got to clean up there. I think there's also some things that we can do, some plays that we've run in the past to get those guys the ball and get the ball to them quickly would be helpful.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer.
Yes, hi, James.
Hi, Joe.
You told us in the past that sometimes you would like your quarterback to get out and maybe scramble and gain 3 or 4 or 5 yards. Are you going to be reminding Christian of this? And do you think he should be getting rid of the ball, maybe throwaways out of bounds when the rush is really heavy? Do you think he should do that more?
Well, I think like I said, with the sacks, I think there's a combination of reasons. It's not one person. It's the coaches, it's the O-line, it's the quarterbacks, it's the running backs, it's the receivers. Everybody had a hand in them. There's things I think we definitely can improve on. And I think at times throwing the ball away. I think at times stepping up the pocket and going and getting 3 or 4 yards would help. But I will also say a lot of the pressures, which you typically do with a pro style pocket quarterback, is you pressure up the middle. You pressure up the middle. So a lot of times he didn't have those opportunities as well.
Mike Gross, Lancaster Newspapers.
Hi, James.
Hey, Mike.
How you doing? Pinstripe Bowl last year, you talked after that game about how good you were in blitz pickup and gave Christian time to have a huge game and receivers to get open and so forth. Some of the Temple kids after the game Saturday talked about how they did some things blitzing that you guys didn't pick up. How much of it was just failure to recognize blitzes?
Well, I think part of it, yeah, that was the communication stuff that I mentioned earlier. They did a lot of stuff where they were having all 5 of our offensive linemen covered, blitzing and playing cover 0 or cover 1 behind it. So a lot of times you're able to create double teams if they only bring 4 guys, but when they're bringing 5 guys and sometimes 6, now basically every single offensive lineman and your running back or your tight end, all of them have to win. Not one guy can get beat. So yeah, they were doing some things as well as twisting and things like that. Their game plan was obviously to attack our offensive line and create confusion. That was their plan going into the game. It was pretty obvious, and then obviously press on the outside to make it difficult for you to get rid of the ball quickly. So we'll probably see that game plan again. People are going to study that film. The Boston College, a little bit different. You have the last 3-4 games of the season to study, kind of anticipate. You might get 1 or 2 different blitzes in the game. But yeah, Temple did a good job of doing those things all offseason. Say we're going to attack their offensive line and attack their protections and overload the box for the running game.
Donnie Collins, Scranton Times-Tribune.
Hi, James.
Hi.
We haven't seen a lot of them, but obviously you have. What does he bring to the table with Naeem out and Kabinda also? What do you like about both of them maybe being able to step in there and be able to handle the job that Naeem did?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part. It was breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just wondering about you. You're seeing moving a lot more than we have. What does he bring to the table leadership-wise with Naeem out and now as an defense and things like that? Kind of the same thing with Kabinda.
Yeah, Wooten and Kabinda, they're both guys that have played and have experience. Wooten's a guy who's been playing here for a number of years now and has played well in his backup role. That's what we're going to look at this week. We're going to look at who's going to take control, not only physically be able to make the plays, but also, out there on the field making the calls, making the checks. It's one of the things with our defense. There's a lot of communication that goes on and everybody's got to be on the same page. So that's going to be the thing we're looking for this week of who steps up into that role. I think in general, Gary's kind of a soft-spoken guy. I've probably heard him say 7 words, since we've been here, where Kabinda is more of an extrovert, and he's always got something to say. So it'll be interesting this week to see who steps up and takes control of that opportunity and that responsibility.
Bob Cohen, Pittsburgh Tribune Review.
Yeah, James, I'm just wondering, just going back to dealing with the defense and their pressure, could there have been changes in the play calling to offset that? Maybe it seems simple, a few more draws, screens. It just seems that, would take advantage of what they were doing and turn it into your advantage.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned, I think one of the things that we could do is move the pocket. I think that would help us. Draws, again, if you're blitzing and you got the entire box loaded, and they're in man coverage, a draw is more of a zone concept, attacking a zone concept defense than necessarily man-to-man. So there's no doubt moving the pocket, I think, could help. Screens, same thing, they're in man coverage, which sometimes makes it difficult for the offensive lineman to get leverage to block the lineman that's covering, the linebacker that's covering the running back, unless you crack them or something like that. So again, they had a good plan to attack an area that we're still working through. But yeah, I think there's some things that we can do in terms of moving the pocket and things like that. It was very similar to the game last night. I watched some of the highlights of that game last night. Overloading the box and things like that. Similar plans.
We'll now open it up to questions here in the media room. Raise your hand. We got a mic on either side of the room.
James, it's kind of the nature of the beast for fans to be upset after that sort of game, but you also had some former players be very vocal and very critical. Are you disappointed by that? What's your reaction when you hear those types of things?
Yeah, again, the fans are going to be passionate. The former players are going to be passionate. They take a lot of pride. They take a lot of pride in this place, and they should. They should. We've been through a lot in our last 3 years. We need to continue to work through these things, and the only way to get those things done is to stay positive, to stay together, and work through it. Work through it. I can sit here and list out 15 reasons, that we're in the position that we're in, but those don't matter. We got to find a way to get it done. We got to find a way to overcome the situation that we're in. I know we're capable of playing better. We got to do it. We got to do it. So again, there's going to be criticism. There's going to be hurt feelings. There's going to be people that are upset. The reason people are so upset is because they care so much. I get it. I get it. And again, I would just ask for everybody to take a deep breath and have some patience, because the negativity is not going to help. The positive energy and the support for our players is what's going to be able to get us through this. And I know if people are patient and they're positive, good things are coming down the road.
Kind of along those lines, one person that some of the former players and fans have criticized heavily is John Donovan. How would you analyze what he's done since he's been here, and how confident are you that he is the right guy to be the coordinator?
Yeah, I think everything in our program every day is being evaluated, every single aspect of it, and we all have responsibilities. The head coach has got responsibilities, the offensive coordinator has responsibilities, the defensive coordinator has responsibilities, all the position coaches, the recruiting coordinator. Everybody has responsibilities, and everybody's got to pull their weight. Do I think there's been some challenges, more so on the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side of the ball since we arrived? Yeah. But we also have to be creative to try to overcome some of those things. And everybody's being evaluated. My job is to support everybody and find a way to overcome some of these challenges and issues that we have right now.
James, were you disappointed a little bit in the adjustment level once you guys went up? Temple outscored you 27-0. What did you see on that side, particularly on offense, that you guys should have been able to react to?
Yeah, I think a lot of things kind of fell into place. Again, I don't think it was just one side of the ball or one player or anything like that. It was a combination. Right at the same time that our offense started to struggle, we lost Naeem Wortman. That had an impact on our defense. Offensively, we were trying to establish the running game. We weren't able to do that consistently. When I think we gave up that first sack, I think you saw a change, on our sideline in terms of some confidence, and we got to be able to be mentally tough and fight through those things. But there's no doubt about it. We got to find a way to solve issues, to solve problems, with a lot of the things that I already mentioned, move in the pocket and things like that, to create some more time, to create some more throwing lanes, things like that.
James, what's your philosophy on shotgun snaps compared to taking snaps under center, and not just for the quarterback, but also for the run game, rather than taking a handoff from the standstill, 1 or 2 steps of momentum, from behind the center? Yeah,
if you look at us historically, we've been about 50-50, and that's including third down. So if you're saying normal downs, we've probably been under center more. I think when you're in the gun, I know for our defense, you look at every time Temple went under center on Saturday, our defense stopped them because there really was no threat of the quarterback running. So, those things, some of the misdirection and the threat of the quarterback running slows the defense down. There's some of the things that we're looking at in terms of the misdirection and having the quarterback in the gun. And then the other thing is for protection. When you're passing the ball, or when you're trying to check from a run to a pass or something like that, and our protection issues that we've had, there's a reason why we're starting back at 5 yards from the beginning rather than under center. Obviously, the faster you can get them away from the defense, those things help. But again, if you look at us in our history, we've been about 50-50. We've been a lot more guns since we've been here. A lot of that is because of our line.
Coach Franklin? Right.
Yes, sir.
What did you, this is kind of a two-part question, what did you see from Akeel Lynch in his first action as the bell cow back, if you will, and do you expect his workload to increase as the season progresses, or what's your plan kind of going forward with Akeel?
Yeah, I thought Akeel did some nice things, on Saturday. He's going to continue to have opportunities in practice in the game to show us that he's the guy. Right now he's listed at the top of the depth chart. I think from an experience and from a mental standpoint, he's ahead of the rest of the guys. I'd love for him to take control of that job and say, I'm the guy, and be a difference maker for us. He's shown flashes.
James, you said Saturday that you guys would look at, keeping Hackenberg in at the end there. After you've looked at it, hindsight, would you have done that again? And the fact that I want to say 5 of the 10 sacks came in the fourth quarter, and you mentioned the kind of the attitude change on the sideline. Did that concern you at all? Do you think there was kind of a quit moment there, or kind of a two-parter?
Yeah, no, I never mentioned that. I said there was a confidence issue. Once we gave up the first sack, I think there was a confidence issue at that point. Yeah, I think at the end of the game, you're in a situation you don't want to be in, where you're down by a number of points and you have to pass to get back in the game. And now you're in a situation where the defense, knows what you're doing, and with an inexperienced offensive line, it's not a situation you want to be in. I would actually say us managing the game before we got to that and running the ball more, I think would have helped more than anything. At the end of the game, I think you can make arguments both ways. Again, the message that we're always going to present is we're going to fight until the last whistle. I know after the fact you look back, when you don't win the game and you give up those sacks late in the game, you say, yeah, you should have got them out of there. But there's a mentality that we're going to fight till the last whistle as well.
Just me. Hey.
I was just curious how the adjustment mechanism works, because you're talking about the things that you seem to understand that maybe if you'd done this, this would have helped you, but it doesn't seem like those sorts of things happen. So is that a matter of it's not how this operates? I mean, how do you go from knowing that you should have done this or could have done this to implementing it when you make that recognition?
Yeah, I think we got to get it done. There's no doubt about it. It's got to be recognized faster on game day. There's when things aren't going well, we're going to go to these things. This is this is the first thing we're going to go to when we get load the box press man. This is the second thing we're going to go to when we get load the box press man, so on and so forth. We're having a hard time in protection. These are the things that we're going to do and go to during the game. There's no doubt we got to recognize those things, and we got to get to them faster. I agree with you.
A couple more quickies. Could you evaluate Palmer's play, and what was the situation with the football that seemed there was your question about the inflation situation?
Yep. Palmer, I think, played like a guy starting his first game. I think that's accurate. I think he's worked really hard. I think he's improved dramatically. And this week, we're going to have to make some decisions. But I think he played like a guy starting his first game. The balls, we all know we had this thing in the offseason in the NFL. It wasn't something that was stressed, that was going to be an area of emphasis in college. When my quarterback's coach and my quarterback comes up to me right before the game and felt like the balls were a lot different than they expected them to be, we had a discussion about it.
How much have you talked to Jim Haslett since the game, and what has his input been?
Yeah, Jim's working, like he's still working, for the Redskins in terms of hours. I mean, he's there all the time. He's been a real good sounding board for all of our coaches. He's sitting in a staff meeting. For him, it's more of what we've discussed already. He's a sounding board. We talk about a lot of different things like that, but, in terms of strategy and other things, he's not really involved in those types of things.
Time for 2 more. We'll start with you, Frank.
Hey, Coach over here. Right here. How do you look at the way your safeties played, specifically Jordan Lucas in his first game in safety, with the long runs that kind of happened later in the game? How do you evaluate their performance?
Yeah, I didn't think as a defense, 2 things. I thought we allowed the ball to get out into open space more than we normally have, with some of their zone reads and things like that. And then I didn't feel like we tackled as well as we have in open space in our past. So that's an area that we got to improve on. I think that showed up on Saturday for sure.
Coach, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Hey, you had a conversation during your halftime interview talking about, I believe it was about pre-snap adjustments, making calls that they were kind of forcing you to check out of maybe perhaps a run and forcing you to check out with what they were showing. Are there things you can do pre-snap to counteract that and kind of dictate back to them?
Yeah, I think there are some things that you can do. You could, line up an empty and spread them out to force them into a check. You can line up an unbalanced, which we did. To usually people have an unbalanced check. The issue with going empty is you could create more stress on your offensive line. So yeah, we've discussed this in the past, and I know everybody wants it to be an easy solution, but it starts up front. On defense, it starts up front. On offense, it starts up front. And you can build an offense or a defense around your front. The better you are up front, the more flexibility and the more creative you can be in terms of attacking the defense, in terms of solving problems, in terms of dictating the style of play. There's no doubt about it. But when you're calling a game to solve your problems rather than attacking, that becomes challenging, and that's one of the situations we've been in for the last year and a half now.
Thank you, Coach.
Awesome.
We'll have Jordan Lucas in momentarily.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.